Oh, camera. That angle. Oh, hey, we're live.
Oh, okay, we're going live. We already are live.
Yeah, we are live.
Even better.
Hi, guys.
I am Alex Mack here with VideoDrew. We're going to be chatting a little bit about some movies, a little bit about some directors, and our biases overall. This is Cinema Bias, so thank you so much for dropping by this Thursday evening. Mm-hmm. What's up, Drew? How you doing? How you feeling, girl?
I'm feeling a little weird. This is not the usual time for Cinema Bias. We usually do them on Tuesday nights. I was super psyched to be doing it on Tuesday night, and then I got on the call with Alex. We were like doing the prep for it, and then I just started barfing. Like, I don't know how it was funny. I just started barfing like so much. I like ran out of the room and was like, I came back 5 minutes later. I was like, okay, I think I'm good. Had to run out again, like just barfing. It seems like it was an inner ear infection, I think, that really messed me up. And it sucked because for a while I was like, my brain felt not attached to my body. And so I really appreciate you guys sticking with us and joining us this evening. If you are indeed joining us this evening, or if not, watching this on replay, because there's a lot going on today.
There is a ton going off today. So if you happen to, select us today, I'm very grateful for that, for sure. There's a lot streaming, a lot to watch. And anyway, regardless, I want to talk about a little movie called Whale Rider.
Wow.
So this movie came out. Yeah, Whale Rider came out in 2002. It is an Oscar-nominated film, and it was very much a sleeper hit. It was actually was submitted by, I believe, New Zealand, for the Foreign Film Association. Sorry, for the Foreign Film nomination for New Zealand. Sorry, that's like a tongue twister right there.
Nomination New Zealand. Okay.
Yeah, and it did really, really well internationally. But this movie is something that I watched for the first time when I was like 13, maybe 14. So it kind of caught me at a really good time. So, Drew, did you have any biases?
Going into this movie, I'd never heard of it. But that's not really a bias so much as like VideoDrew doesn't know movies that well. I swear to God, I'd never even heard of it. It seems like the kind of movie that should have at least been on my radar. I'll stop touching my face while I do this. It should have at least been on my radar is my thought about it. Because watching it, like I was like, either everybody knows about this movie or like nobody knows about this movie and you've just picked a very, very deep cut. But like listening to people's responses about it, like on social media, it seems like a lot of people have seen this film. This must have just bypassed me completely. Mm-hmm. That being said, like, does it seem like the kind of film I would watch? Not necessarily. I think it goes to a problem that I've had with many of these films, which is sort of like, including my own picks, which is, who is this movie for? But I guess we could start out there, which is like I start with the inherent bias of who is this movie for? Is it for someone like me? If not, like, am I that interested in it? And before we get too deep into it, guys, if you want to, I should put up the stream yards. Let me just go do that. I'm being a little bit of a flake this week, but our Streamlabs is streamlabs.com/VideoDrew. If you have any questions for us, or you want to have any comments, or you just want to donate because you're a nice person and you want to support the stream, please do. Please like and subscribe to this video and subscribe to this channel. I'm like so close to getting 1,000 subscribers, and that would be awesome. So that's
so close. VideoDrew 1K. Let's do it.
I know, 1K hashtag VideoDrew 1K. So close. It is a very popular movie, I guess, to certain people. To people that do watch it, we love it. But if you haven't seen it, it's not exactly on your radar. It's not something you just casually happen to come across. You have to like actively search for it. The Cosmic Shocks even said, in my country, New Zealand, awesome. I love that you're down there. Whale Rider was definitely held in very high regard. A lot of people nowadays, when they think of New Zealand, especially in film, they think of 90% of the time, at least from the conversations I've had with other film lovers, it's Taika Waititi movies. Yeah. It's Peter Jackson and now it's Taika Waititi.
I know. And my thought, well, it's I don't want to say it's a genre that's very new or anything. It's just New Zealand is a country that's not very focused on it as far as Hollywood films go. And, hopefully that will change in the future. We've definitely had, most of Taika Waititi's movies are based in New Zealand, and he's obviously a hugely prominent director. So who knows in the future that might change. But yeah, so we do have a few people in the chat that are kind of mentioning that they've never seen it before.
Okay.
Go watch it if you get the chance. But, that kind of brings us to our first segment. Tell me the plot.
Okay, wait, this time I wrote it down.
I will be timing you.
Okay, I wrote down so I can get concise.
Okay, so you have 1 minute. Go.
Okay, let's go. Hold on, wait. Oh no, where is it? Oh no, now it's disappeared. Yeah, okay. So this is like a sad Moana movie where all the gods are suicidal whales. It's just super weird. So this is a flip side to a Disney princess story. There's this young girl named Pai whose twin brother and whose mom die in childbirth. Her father is the son of a chief in a modern New Zealand community, and the dad just kind of fucks off for the rest of the film and sort of like a grief fugue walkabout sort of thing, leaving her the heir ascendant if she can prove to her stern traditional grandfather that why she deserves to be the first female leader of this tribe. And hint, it involves whales and being able to ride and talk to them.
15 seconds.
So there's supernatural and mystical elements to the film, but it is literally just about a girl who can talk to whales and sort of the issues she has about taking over and becoming that first female leader of this male-oriented tribe, but also what it means to love animals.
Time! Oh, girl.
How'd I do?
You touched quite a few points in there, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And, okay, just to clarify, Malcolm, people are talking about, Taika Waititi, or specifically LTR, but I'd argue, even though LTR is very famously was made in New Zealand, however, I mean, it's a fantasy world, and therefore it's not exactly set in the movie that the movie takes place in New Zealand.
Yeah, but everyone knows
But
everyone knows that it was shot. If the story about it being shot was so big.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, the point of what I think was very unique about this movie in particular is that this movie actually comes up to one of my first points is that this movie is very focused on the role nature has within the characters. I mean, within the movie. I know it's kind of weird, but constantly surrounded by, there's a constant presence of nature, of the sound of the ocean that's constantly roaring in the background. The way she's, when she's Paikea is, contemplating. She goes to the ocean and she looks out into the ocean where she's confused or when she's fighting with her family. That's where she goes. She goes outside, sits and looks at the ocean. It's something that's very, not only she's not inside ever, she's like
there's very few indoor shots, but when they are. Yeah.
And 90% of the time when there are indoor shots, they're usually no one's happy. It's not a good scene. It's not a very happy scene.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. So, okay. So, but like I mentioned, the constant, the idea of, the role, not only nature takes place and the nature is very much its own character within this movie. But also, the nature is very much its own character in the movie, just like in some movies, Boondock Saints, the city of Boston is a character in the movie.
So much like the city of Boston was a character in this movie. When I was trying to describe this to Eric, to NerdChronic, I was trying to describe it, and he's like, it sounds like New Zealand's another character in this movie, because that's a trope that we like making. Because we when we make making fun of that trope of it's almost like New York is another character, in a Nora Ephron film. That but it's really funny that I hit that bingo sheet right away. But it's very much and I see what you're saying about this being a specifically New Zealand film, because it's what it is. It's and why probably the New Zealand government would want to finance a film like this or promote a film like this is because it showcases New Zealand to be this beautiful tourist location, with a lot of deep and interesting history.
Well, I mean, there's not only that. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. After watching this movie, I was I want to go there for vacation. I mean. Yeah.
Who doesn't?
Especially right now when we're cooped up in the house and you're watching this movie filled of these beautiful vast beaches and lush greenery, these huge wide shots where it's just the people that are like walking in the streets, they're not the focus.
Yeah, no, the people are very much not the focus of this film. So much so that I was like,
they just happen to be there, but you're really kind of focusing on the waves or the hills going on in the background. It feels like sometimes, at least like it to me, because it was just so stunning.
So let me ask you: Did I miss anything big with the plot? I'm not sure much for spoilers you want to give away, but like, what did I miss here?
Well, I did want to kind of point out specifically something you kind of touched on, but I didn't feel like all that much was the role of her being her. You said that she was born a twin. However, she's a female twin of a set of twins, and the other twin was stillborn, I believe.
Yeah,
her male. And going into it, everyone thought that only a male could be a leader, especially in this kind of tribal, very group, essentially, where if you have a leader, you can only have a guy. I mean, like, I don't know anything about the Maori culture of anything, honestly. So I feel like I can't really tell you the specifics around it. Obviously, I can't really criticize or confirm anything. But this is true, 100%.
Yeah.
But they made it seem essentially that it's something only a man can do. And by her being born a female, she is fucked.
Yeah.
No one wanted her.
Well, let's be clear. She's not as fucked as you would be in any other culture that is this predominantly religious or whatever. Like, she's not being thrown into a fire pit or sold off into female slavery or like married into something horrible. It's more just like she can't ascend and she can't take her place in the world. And her father leaving is horrible.
I mean, it's very right out the gate. You have this understanding from the moment she's born that because she's born female, not because of personality or anything. Because, people that, do talk to her and everyone, they clearly love her. She's clearly a well-loved character. But at the same time, she can never be held in the same conversation as, leaders and people to really teach and learn the Maori ways because of her gender.
Okay. Well, let's see. Maybe I can ask you a couple questions about this film that will help me understand a little bit more about it. So, I guess, what's the next segment? Is it going to be favorite characters moments? That's not it yet. Or why it matters? Should we move on to that? Or does it hold up? I'm sorry. I'm looking through our things right now.
So one of the other ones was, favorite characters and moments.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Let's move that. That's the next one down the line. So let's go there. But I wanted to ask you a little bit, like, what originally stood out to you that you really liked, or loved about this movie? What made you so interested in this when you saw it? You said you saw it in high school. So, were you an animal lover? Was this like a big Free Willy thing?
No, it's, I think it's the aesthetic of the film, if that makes sense. Like, I love the color palette of the film. It's very visually, it's stunning. It has, everything is about very soft blues and crisp greens. Like, you don't see any reds or oranges or any warm colors. Everything is very cool. It's a very, I don't want to say a cold movie, but it's a movie where you're watching it and you feel the weather, if that makes sense. Like watching it, I felt like I really wanted it to rain outside. It's
kind of a downer movie.
Yeah, it kind of is a downer movie a little bit, for sure. I mean, it's because it is very focused on, you get all these like wide shots and everything, it's, the color palette of the movie was something I really enjoyed. It was like the first time I saw a movie and I was like, that's like a theme, and they stuck to it, and I respect that, and I like it. I acknowledge that. It was like probably the first time I really like thought about it. And but I mean, it's like nature-based color palette, so you don't really get anything warm, any like warm colors or anything throughout the entire movie. It feels like everything's like very muted and browns and everything as well.
I'm going to see if I think I can bring up the trailer for this and play at least a couple seconds of the trailer. Maybe not even with the audio because I don't want to get pulled down. But I think I can play a couple seconds of the visuals from the Whale Rider trailer. So let me just try to do that for a second. Because there is something I think that you're probably going to be able to see just from the color palette of this, which is what kind of movie this is. Hold on. Let's just share screen. Let's see, Whale Rider. Is that it? Let's see. It's coming up on YouTube. There we go. So guys, this is a little bit of a trailer for it. Let's see if I can make this big. So again, you're not going to be hearing the audio. You're just going to be seeing the. I'm sorry for the overlay of that. I don't know why that's happening. Go away. He kind of is on her side, as opposed to like a lot of other people in this movie. Like even the grandparents who like love her, they're not necessarily on her side. And the idea is that there's this legend, right? That there's this legend about the town that's saying, or about the tribe, which is like, if you're able to, it's like both a prophecy. If you're able to both prophesize, but then also talk to the whales, then you're like the leader, kind of.
Well, that's the thing. It's kind of insinuated in the movies that you can't be the leader unless you do have this kind of spiritual connection to the ocean or to the whales in particular. And the grandfather Paka has mentioned that all this shit bad things started happening since she was born. You know, starting 11 years ago, that's when the shit hit the fan.
Yeah.
So it's her fault. And it got even worse once she started acting out and wanting to play on this leadership role, because all she did was like want to hang out with the boys and train with them, because she's like literally the only girl in the town.
Yeah.
That age. And so it's frustrating.
So yeah, I mean, but one of the things that we find out, and spoilers if you guys haven't seen this, but I think you get a little sense in the preview, is that she does have a mystical connection with the ocean. She is able to speak to the animals a little bit. She's got a little bit of an Aquaman thing going on, but it's always this is like high Valerian concept in terms of like the mythology, but like in actuality, the way it's played off is very hyper realistic, which is a weird choice. So this movie I don't see appealing to kids, because like even though it deals with legends and stuff, and this girl who could talk to whales and ride whales.
Maybe if you're a film buff kind of kid.
Maybe, but I'm saying like this movie's a Debbie Downer, and this movie is shot like, it's not shot like a coming of age movie. It's not shot like a fantasy movie. It is shot like a real style documentary.
A coming of age movie.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying it's not shot like a coming of age movie, nor is it like done in a fun style. It's more like a drama whose subject happens to be a young woman. Like I don't think it's.
I can understand that, absolutely.
You know, like the difference between this and like, let's say, The Spectacular Now. Or like another movie, what we consider like
the emphasis is more like a family drama.
It's a drama. I think it's a
family drama where the focus is on a younger girl.
I think it's a coming of age movie, and I absolutely believe it is. But I think more than that, I think coming of age almost like diminishes a little bit of what it's about, because it is a drama and it deals with serious subjects such as like death and suicide and addiction and running away and not, it deals with all these issues that are really super serious. But it does it through the lens of this very young girl. So at first you might be tempted to be like, well, I don't know, like, why is the movie about someone this young, this serious, unless it's supposed to be just like a downer kind of film? Like I felt like at some points I was watching like one of these like really sad, like, I was waiting for the uplifting moment. Like everything seemed really sad, even to the part where she's, okay, so she finally gets to this thing where, and this is kind of jumping ahead a bit to the end, but she's giving this speech in school. She's apparently won a school essay writing contest. We had no idea. We did not know idea that she was winning a contest. It's like a statewide contest. So she gives this speech. She's giving the speech. She's like, she gives it to her grandfather, but her grandfather is not there because he's busy on the shore watching where all these whales have like come up and breached like the surface. So there's all these like whales that are like dying on the shore now. And he's like, who's responsible for this? Whose fault is this, essentially?
My granddaughter.
Yeah, and then it's like, well, guess whose fault it is? Maybe like the chick that you keep saying, like, try calling some whales, see if maybe that gets them. And she called the whales, and now they're up on the shore. And the thing is, like, she's trying. She didn't know what she was doing, but like, it's sort of like an X-Men power effect where she like didn't know that they were actually going to show up. And then when she gets them there, she can't get them to go back in the ocean because now they all want to die. Like the whales, like are like, no, we want to die now.
Well, Lucas asked me this the other day where he was like, well, what is the role of the whales in this movie? What are the significance?
Yeah, and right.
I don't know personally, but there seems like because mentioned in this movie, Pikaia was like this, their ancestral leader that came on a whale to their location and pretty much created what they have.
So it is Moana.
He was, okay, so Pikaia was the original person, I guess. person.
So she's like a pie man. This is like a pie man, like a Hereditary thing, where she's just the embodiment of some older like god there.
The main character, the girl, her name is Paikea, but she is the descendant. She's the only female leader descendant, of Paikea, and that they have. And she's the only one, since she's the only female to be born in however many generations, she's the real reason. But
okay, I'm starting to get it. I'm starting to get this. This movie is just Hereditary. But the way that Hereditary was like a horror movie, but it was also like a really intense family drama. This movie is like a coming of age film or like a fantasy film, but it's also just a very intense family drama. Like,
fun fact called Hereditary family drama. He doesn't describe it as a horror movie.
It's not. I mean, it is a horror movie because it involves supernatural elements, but I would say that I would say it's a family drama. And Midsommar is not a horror movie. Midsommar has no no supernatural elements.
Well, so he described it as the opposite. He said said that Midsommar was a horror movie first and drama second.
Oh, interesting.
But I would say that he described in the interview that he considers Midsommar his like first horror movie. But he considers Hereditary the first a family drama first and a horror second.
It's always interesting to see. Yeah, I would say the same thing about Hereditary. I mean, I went to Hereditary and I ended up hating it the first time I saw it because I was like, what is this? I saw it in theaters. I was like, this is supposed to be a horror movie. And instead I'm just like mad upset. I was like, there's some upsetting stuff happened that like is not cool and like doesn't fall under horror. It's just upsetting. And I watched that movie again and again and I realized that there were certain elements I was missing here. But like, I just find it like really interesting because this is sort of my issue with this movie is being like, who's this movie for? Like, because not only are the whales willing to die, but like, not only did her mother die, not only is like no one accepting her, but then she goes and like rides the whale. So she gets this whale to finally give a shit about its own life and convinces it to go back in the ocean. She's riding the whale. So hold on, she's riding the whale. And then she straight up like goes, you can hear her voiceover narration because she's underwater and everyone's like, oh no. And she goes, yeah, I'm not scared of death. So like, it'd be fine if like, that's what this second was going to lead to. And then you see her like falling off the whale and like going back to, and you're just like, oh, so this like 12-year-old's cool with dying because this whole movie is just sort of also about like, I read it a little bit as like the indigenous tribes like dying out and like how there's no room for this in like, modern New Zealand culture. And it was kind of a bummer. It was kind of a bummer watching this 12-year-old want to die, watching the whales want to die, and then also thinking about like the death of this tribe.
There was a story that kept being brought up that, the Paikea, when they were out exploring and they got lost and they couldn't find their way home. Paikea chanted to ask the whales for guidance. And it's what the whales is actually ended up bringing Paikea home, essentially. So I thought it kind of corresponded to that, to be honest. But I can definitely see that, very much being more symbolic, obviously. The whales, I always thought of them as being more like this idea of like who she thought like the ancestors were on. Because Paikea came to their island on a whale. And so she kind of, obviously, she's going back to... I can't remember the word that she used, but the word that they used to just kind of describe it. But the moral of this movie is that it's okay to have a woman leader as a last resort as long as she still has the right genetics.
Yeah, that's the Kim Jong Kim or whatever. Our next one. I just love Lucas's readings of it. Sometimes I feel like Lucas needs to be the third co-host of the show because
I'm not kidding.
Lucas and I have very similar reads on stuff. I love that his takeaway was, isn't this plot Mulan? And I'm like, no. This is very clearly Moana. Like, this is 1-to-1 Moana. No. And you can even read the whales being old gods. Like, I read it very much as like the whales being the old gods. Like, these were...
Well, Lucas even brought that up, that he kept bringing up, he kept being like, yeah, this is just like a New Zealand version of Mulan. I mean, she does this, she takes on this leadership role where everyone doubts her and her family and da-da-da. And I was like, funny to say that. Was this movie and released in 2002 was directed by Niki Caro. Now, if you're not familiar, Niki Caro also is the one that directed the live action Mulan. Now,
which is crazy. Which is crazy.
So, but at the time, Lucas, I wasn't dismissive. How dare you? You brought it up, my dude. You did.
Hey.
But but it was really interesting, how Lucas was like, even mentioned it. He's like, well, clearly they found the right person because they have like such an identical story. They were like, yeah.
It's identical. And here's what the difference is. It's like, you can know the difference between Mulan and Moana in a Disney film versus what this film is, because the tone is so different. And like, they would never be like all this like emphasis on suicide or self-immolation or like wanting to die, like that there is, or like the idea of extinction, like encroaching, like, and just like it's almost like the biggest obstacle that these characters need to face in this film is adapting versus like giving up. So it's the idea of like adapting to the new culture, adapting the idea of a female thing, as opposed to just letting themselves die out, and as opposed to just letting yourself get breached on land and being like, well, that's it.
Well, it's not only just adapting to having a new leader, but adapting to this idea that you have to adapt with the time. So you can kind of correspond that to the idea of the role of tribalism, especially in the small group that they have. I mean, like, it's such a small little society that they have there, obviously, that, follow this religion and this kind of culture. But there's, not like I mentioned, how there's constantly ocean sounds in the background. There's constantly wide shots and everything. Not only that, there's constantly, in every frame, there's some kind of like reference to, with statues, or there's like, I can't remember what they call the staffs that they use to fight with, but it's constantly.
There's a lot of fighting scenes. I was like, who are you fighting against? Your own,
like the fighting scenes where like they're practicing, essentially.
Yeah, but again, like against what?
Yeah,
they're not like going to war. They're not battling. They're not even using them ritualistically. I'm like, what are those for? Like, I'm like, you guys are like fighting your own like irrelevancy. But
yeah, it's so. I mean, essentially, like this idea that if they don't, they're gonna, just like what Paka was scared of. If they don't adapt to the times, and if they don't adapt to having a new leader and try to find new ways to like improve, this kind of older culture, they're going to die out, and people are going to want to leave, just like Pakea's father that left for Germany.
Oh my God. Okay, so I do have to ask a question, and I think I missed this like the first 8 times I watched it, but I kept going back. There's an earlier scene before this big climactic scene where she dives down to the whales. They're on some sort of expedition. She dives down and sees the whales and hangs out with them for a little bit. And she finds this sort of like a trinket. It's almost like a hair thing that's made out of bone, it looks like, and has some carvings in it. She brings it back up to the surface.
It's a whale tooth.
It's a whale tooth? Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah. She,
it's like carved, right?
She's like, in order, if you wear this, you have to have this, he described it as like, this is a whale tooth. You have to have the strength of a whale in order to wear it. That's what he used.
Okay. And it looked like there were some things. I thought it was something that had to do with her mother or something, because it looked like there were some things inscripted on it. And then when they hand it to her father at the end of the movie, so her father just randomly just shows up at the shore, like when the rest of them are there, and he's like, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" Like, there's no reason for him to be down. He just like shows up and he's like, "Hey, I heard something's going on over here." And they hand him the whale tooth, and he looks up to the grandmother and his mother, and he goes, "Whose is this?" Or like, "Oh no, wait, which one is this?" Which one is this? And she like looks at him and she goes, "What are you talking?" She's like, "What do you even mean?" Like, and by the way, the audience is like, "What do you mean? Are you confused about which child of yours is left alive?"
No, it was more like, "What do you mean?"
What did you mean? Which one?
Well, at this point, Paikea is the only one to consistently get through, really get through all these tests successfully.
Yeah, but his other kid's dead. So, like, I think she more meant, like, how are you fucking nuts? Like, have you really, like, out to lunch? Because which one of the 2 kids? There's only one kid. There's only one kid left.
Well, I thought of it as, like, more like, well, obviously, it's the one child that that's been clearly successful in getting all these things correct for representing, trying to find out selecting this leader, and you just keep ignoring them because of their gender, and you're just completely disregarding.
I'm not talking about the grandfather.
Really talented.
I'm talking about it's not the grandfather she gives the thing to. It's the dad who has come back. The dad is standing. He comes back now, and so it's the dad who gets the thing from the grandmother, and she gives.
I'm thinking of the wrong scene. My bad.
No, it's okay. It's at the end. So the grandmother, like, yeah, because you're right. So when that happens in the kitchen earlier, he's like,
"Oh yeah."
I'm talking about when the dad comes to shore and he's like, she gives him that, and he goes, okay, like who, like which one is this? And she's just like looks at him like he's crazy because he is crazy, or like I think that's the read here. She's just like, are you that like sad and out to lunch that you forgot which one of your children died? Like, which one is this? Like, there's only one kid, man. Like, it's your daughter. I don't know if there's like another read on that situation or what the whole tooth symbolized.
Well, probably. Well, at that point, there's three. There was like 2 or 3 boys that went to die for it. So she probably. Right. The way I thought of it was like maybe like one of the kids went back and looked for it. Gotcha. You know, because apparently, I guess you can do that. I don't know when worse comes to worse. I mean, but that's how I took it. But also in that scene, can we just talk about how he talked about, oh, this is a lobster for the lobster tea. What the heck is lobster tea?
Oh yeah, the lobster tea thing. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in this movie that I was like, people were going, what? And I was going, yeah, what? But I wasn't sure if we were going, what for the same reason. I was going like, what? Because like, which one of your children is dead? Are you serious? But other people might have been going, what? Because like the question should have been like a different question. Mm-hmm. His initial thought was that it's one of his male students. Lucas, but I'm not talking about the grandfather. I'm talking about literally the dad who has been away in like Germany. At the very, very, very end when they're on the shore, it's the dad, not the grandfather, I believe. Because the dad's on the shore too. He's come back to town. We can try pulling up, unless I'm crazy here. And I might be. Because there's something that said in an earlier scene when she gets the shark's tooth, where she gets it to the grandmother, and the grandmother's like, looks at it and she's like, yeah. And like, she's like, somebody says something to her. She goes, I'll bring this up later when it's time to talk about it.
Well, how the scene goes, Paikea, she goes, gets the tooth. She gets the tooth with her uncle, as well as his uncle's girlfriend, Rachel.
Yeah, and the end of the movie.
She goes out and she gets it and she brings up the lobster, and that's all cool. She brings the tooth as well, much to everyone's surprise, because at that point they're like, she's been down for like 20 or something minutes.
Yeah, she's dead. Leave her up for dead.
They've been looking for her at that point, freaking out. But anyway, she finds it, so he brings back the lobster as well as the tooth. The uncle does this and brings it over to his mom. So it's Paikea's uncle that does it.
Right. I'm talking, but then don't they bring that back up at the very, very end of the film when she's trying
he keeps it until the very end.
Right. So that very end though, she's on the shore looking for Paikea, and Paikea's
and she gives it to her husband, the grandfather.
Oh, she gives it to the grandfather. Got it.
So she doesn't. At no point does she actually give it to her son, Paikea's.
Why? Okay, so that brings up another good point, though, which is like interesting, which is why isn't this uncle a bigger part of the why is it because he was born second? Like, you would think the male heir would be, if the dad defected and the dad had a brother and only one daughter, why isn't the dad's brother going to be the next in line? The guy just doesn't seem to want it that much. He's kind of like the get with it old people. He's the okay boomer of this movie.
Yeah. Well, he seemed like at one point he was ambitious. I mean, he was like really good at the fighting. He won an award and everything. But and since he lost a lot of that ambition, and maybe he just got lazy, or maybe he was never given the opportunity to possibly take on a leadership role, and so he just didn't want to anymore.
I mean, I found that like the whole dynamics of this like super interesting, because I was like, yeah, I mean, eventually I thought there was going to be some like Lion King shit where I was like, it's going to be revealed, because I was thinking in a narrative sense, I kept like waiting. I was like, it's going to be revealed that the uncle was like really bad, or it's going to be revealed all these things. It was like, no, there is no reveal. This is just a course of humanity kind of thing. This movie also reminded me like this is like the Star Trek movie with the whales, but from the perspective of the whales.
Yeah, right.
Like, you got a lot of like whale unit like ennui in this film. Like there's a lot of depressed whales. There's just a lot of depressed whales hanging out in New Zealand. Even like to the point where at the very end of the movie, when she's talking to whales and she's like, this one just doesn't want to live anymore because it's breached, but it's got this giant barnacle like attached to it. Like, it's just like, I can't tell if it's on the blowhole. It's somewhere like important on the whale, and she's trying to pull it off. She can't get it off, and she's trying to convince him to go back in the ocean. It won't go back in the ocean. And there's part of me that's like, let the damn whale die. That whale doesn't want to live anymore. Let it die. You brought it to shore.
Well, it seems like when people towards the very end, where everyone's trying to they put a rope over its tail and they're trying to drag it back to sea. I have several issues with that.
I mean, let the whale die on its own terms.
Well, I'm saying they're trying to help it. Like they wanted to move it back towards the sea and help it survive and everything. The whale's just like, well, whatever.
I don't want to live, and you have something for the whales. You can't grab it and then like force it to do something you don't want to do.
Yeah, so I mean, it seems like so in theory, if that's the case, it seems like the whale is there and it's like it's struggling, but it doesn't want to move. So it does seem like, based by that train of thought, the whale does want to die.
Yeah, no, the whale super wants to die. All those whales want to super die.
But suddenly, when Paikea, she's like, "No, I'm gonna do this."
She kind of forces it. She kind of forces the issue. But
like, I connect with you. I connect with you. Whale, beautiful, massive whale
thing.
And suddenly she climbs up on top, like Paikea, and she's like, and she just kicks it with her heel. And Whale's like, all right, bro, let's time to go.
Yeah, and then it's like, you want this? Okay, well, got this. And then it like drags her into the ocean. She's like, that's cool. And it's like dragging her underwater. She's like, that's cool. And everyone else is like, wait, what? No, get that daughter off the whale.
It was like, suddenly everyone's just like, where's my granddaughter?
Yeah, first like, yay. And then they look
the
at
big whale's up there.
Yeah.
And suddenly they're thinking, the train of thought is that the whales are gonna be they're gonna survive because all the little whales that went with they're gonna follow the lead of the big whale, the big mama whale.
But have we seen that? Have we seen that to be true? Do we know that the other whales leave? Because they're just like
whale dynamics.
I just see one whale that got up. I don't see the rest of those whales getting up anywhere anytime soon.
We don't really. Yeah, I don't think we can really speak for whale behavior.
Well, I mean, Paika claims to, so I would like to know a little bit more about this whale mentality, because what it almost felt like was the whales were like, yeah, like if no one's listening to you, like what hope is there for us? Because you're supposed to be the bridge between us. Like if I had to follow the whale logic,
right. Yeah,
they're like, you called us to shore, like what do you? Okay, but now we're here. Fuck you guys. Like your people aren't even listening to you. Like
yeah. We gave you a leader. You don't want her. You're treating her like shit. And that's the reason why we're fucking everything up.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe if you guys had been such like less assholes to her, maybe there wouldn't have been like so many years where we weren't paying attention. I mean, also I think it speaks to a thing though, which is sort of like this tribe's beliefs and its things dying out. The idea of like it was never brought in as a one-to-one, which I appreciate because it was never made heavy-handed. But like the idea of like, the environment and global warming and all these things about dying out of like big species, like whales are I'm not sure if they're endangered species. I guess it would depend on the whale, but like they certainly ain't doing so well. And like the idea that like, I guess maybe this is also a very American thing, but when I think of whales, I think of like Free Willy. I think of like Blackfish. I think of like all the ways we have treated whales like shit and they have just fucked the fuck off.
Let's see. What was that? There's a killer whale movie where like the killer whale is like it's almost like treated like Jaws, where it's like revengeful. Like like a human killed like one of its pups.
I mean, yeah, those animals are super. You don't fuck around with them.
Like the whale, like apparently like saw a glimpse of the boat, and so it like followed the boat like a mile behind it, and recognized where it left.
Is this a movie or is this like a real life story?
Yeah, I won't be surprised.
Is that a real life story? Because that's terrifying. If true,
no, it was like a movie from the 80s. I want to say Orca.
There we go. So I mean, like, also brings up a great question. Can she talk to all whales or just like this one species of whales? Because I only saw one kind of whale. They look like big beluga or maybe like beluga whales or something, but like I mean I don't know my whales, people. I know dolphins. I don't know my whales.
Maybe it's this kind of whale, or no clue. Obviously, we are not exactly experts.
We're not zoologists,
but maybe there is a significance with this kind of whale specifically to their people.
I know they're also ancient. Whales live a very long time. So that's the other part that I really liked about it. It's sort of like whales can recognize like longevity because they live. I'm pretty sure they live a really time. I'm not a zoologist and I know a lot more about dolphins than whales, but like I believe that they live very long lives, almost like turtles or stuff. And they can be dolphins that are super, super old. So the idea that there are these creatures that are leviathans that speak to another age, to like another time period, and that they have some connection to the past while the past is currently being changed and rewritten for a modern era, and these things may or may not even want to be part of that modern era because it's so I don't know. There's a lot of interesting interplay between like what it means to be from a modern era, what it means to adapt and change with the times when you're talking about things like global warming and like species being hunted out of existence and relevancy of Aborigine tribes during like a modern era. There's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, there's a lot of something I was kind of interested in is that there are so few females, I feel like, in this movie, especially females that are of the same age as her. I felt like there's like only except during the scene where she's giving the speech, and oh my gosh, I bawled like a baby. It was like it was not cute. It was so beautiful. But no, I mean, like I'm not a cute crier. Like I'm an open, gross weeper, like snot, and it's like it's not cute. But there's very few females, you know, that are of her age. But you know, the women they're never held in the same conversation of these kind of leadership discussions or these kind of like manly discussions.
No one ever talks to her like she's a real person except for the uncle, basically. And grandma occasionally.
But Paikea, I mean, like everyone was really kind to her when she's a child, and she is still a child. But suddenly, when she kind of hits this kind of prepubescent age, you know, where the transition starts from, you know, prepubescent into puberty and everything, where she's kind of transitioning to, I guess, the change, you know, when you start your period and all that good stuff, you know, it's more apparent that, you know, the decision where she's not a child anymore. She is gonna be a woman, where you can't really talk to her in that way anymore. Yeah, because her grandfather clearly loved her, but at the same time, he couldn't love her the way he could love a grandson.
Yeah, and to Lucas's point,
Rain essentially.
Yeah. Well, then to Lucas's point, I don't feel like it's not about a love thing. I think it was an instinct of they need a tribe leader, and this like really screwed them. And like he's not mad at her about it, but so much as like it's an afterthought. But no, there's not. But I think that's for a purpose, right? It's not like there weren't any other girls in the tribe. It's just like look at how redundant they think the role of the women are. Yeah. Like this movie isn't revolving around any other women in this movie or in this story because like. That's not the focus. That's not anyone in this movie's concern is what's going to happen to the women or what they have to say. The uncle has a girlfriend, I believe, that he's like kind of talking to.
Yeah, that was the same age as him.
Yeah, that she gets a couple lines, but that's even interesting in that context because it's like, yeah, this guy like because he's so liberal or new age or whatever, he's going to let his girlfriend speak, so she gets a couple lines in this scene. It's not like there aren't women in this tribe or women in this world. It's more like the movie's not going to focus on them because they have no impact.
They're not the focus.
They have no impact. Like, they can't do anything.
They're not cared for. No one cares about. Well, I mean, like, but I do feel like one of the biggest female characters outside of Paikea is to me, it's the grandma. Obviously, the grandma. And she even mentioned she tells them when the grandpa gets pissed at Paikea. Paka gets pissed at her, where she's like, no, she needs to pick it up. She needs to apologize. She's fucking up everything. And grandma's like, no, you did this, and I'm not going to let her pick it up. She is a child. Yeah. I'm going to clean it up. He may be the leader out there. I'm the leader in here. And that's like one of the only moments in the movie where she ends up not only talking back to him, but he ends up holding his tongue, because every other scene throughout the entire movie, especially outside of the house, does she really talk back to him, where she not just wins, but he confirms it, essentially.
I mean, that's what's kind of interesting is the dichotomy push-pull of this movie, right? Because it's both the celebration of these cultures, as well as being like, yeah, it's kind of fucked up, like how these cultures like treat women, and not just women, but like a bunch of different things, like how there's a great pseudo documentary. It's done in documentary style, but there are some recreation moments about I would love to figure out the title of it. It's about an Aborigine New Zealand tribe. There was a chick in the tribe who was a drug addict, and she had a kid and something. But basically, the tribe ends up thinking that she's possessed, like with a demon, and they try to perform an exorcism on her. This is a true story. Try to perform an exorcism on her, and she dies mid-exorcism because they're like refusing to feed her. They're like putting her on these physical and emotional, stressors and. It's horrible. Yeah. And you talk to people in the tribe, like, yeah, no, we really thought that like she was possessed by a demon and we were saving her life. Like, and then she died.
Especially in these smaller communities, absolutely.
Yeah, but when I was watching this movie, it kind of was reminiscent of that a little bit. I was like, is this kind of one of those communities that would like perform an exorcism before taking somebody to the hospital? Like, is this one of those, like, how much am I supposed to root for her becoming the head of this backwards or like old-timey community if they're that intent on the fact that women can't be the head of it?
Just touching on that, I think you're totally right. I mean, the focus is this kind of very much isolated community, like you mentioned, wide shots. There's very few people, very few characters in this movie. It's a very tight movie, but also there's outside of Paikea's father, whose girlfriend is from Germany. There's like no character that's not from their small town tribe that's seen in the movie. The girlfriend from Germany that's pregnant, that ends up being brought over, she's the only person that's an outsider, essentially. So
yeah, you get nobody else. You get no perspective.
That's something I really focus on.
It's interesting. It becomes more of a fable that way because you get no perspective of somebody who's like, hey, you know what's weird is that not just that your whole family is not going to accept you as a female leader of a tribe, and let's say this movie takes place in 2002, that's kind of backwards, but even more so than that, like, isn't it kind of weird that you can talk to whales, or isn't it kind of weird that like any of this stuff is happening, and like, wait, who's looking after you again, and like, where are Child Protective Services, and like, do you need therapy, and like, there's just
we don't know if this movie actually takes place in the early 2000s though. This movie was released in 2002. But I mean, honestly, this movie could have taken place in 1975. Honestly, I mean, there's no giveaways like with cell phones, or like there's no references to like media or anything. I mean, it really could take place at any
I think they drive. They have cars, right? So we do.
Well, they have cars. I mean, like you see like one, and it's like an old car.
Fair enough. I mean, yeah, this movie can take place in any time period. I think that's fair enough to say. I think it's supposed to be kind of a timeless kind of story. But when I say these people are like Aborigines, I'm not saying they live in tents or huts. They have homes. They live in, and like the girl goes to school. That was also interesting to me. The girl goes to school. She goes somewhere else she goes in the town. There is a school for these children. It's not just like they're being taught at home, or there's like a religious leader who's like teaching the kids, or they go to a regular school, and we find out the girl has won a statewide essay contest. So this is not like some cut off from the rest of the universe, like tribe in the middle of nowhere. This is not like middle of the Amazon kind of thing. This is someplace that is connected to the real world in some sense.
Well, they are so connected too. I mean, they do purposefully distance themselves from that world. It makes sense why people there are some people that are actively trying to leave. Just like Paikea's father that ends up going to Germany for her. He just they make it seem like he just abandons his daughter in the movie.
Straight up,
and he's like, you know what? Keep it with the grandparents. I'm just gonna head out to Germany, make some art. Bye. That's what it feels like.
To be fair, wasn't he in Germany beforehand? This guy just likes being in Germany.
I mean, that's cool and all, but I mean, like, he had the option of taking his daughter. He had the option of raising her. Like, it seems like they do have an okay relationship, but at the same time, it feels like he's purposely trying to out himself from the family he's a part of and everything. And I agree.
Oh yeah, that dude is an absentee fucking father. Lucas is right. That dad fucking sucked. At the entire day, I was like, every time I saw him, I was like, get the hell out of here, you piece of shit.
Like, you can do a lot of those jobs anywhere. I mean, like, what he was.
I get that you're running from grief, but it also just seems like you're running from having to deal with your family. And if you're running from your family because they suck or they're old, they're backwards, whatever, that's fine. Take your daughter with you, you dummy. So take your daughter with you so she doesn't have to live under the same fate.
There for no reason. And
oh my God,
she's not gonna be respected or loved the way you want. And you have that fight at the hospital at the very beginning.
Oh my God.
I do want to talk about a little bit of behind the scenes of this movie.
Okay, let's do it. Okay. I actually don't know anything about it.
So I'm hoping that Malcolm, if he's still in the chat, if he's able to correct me or kind of, fill me a little bit more of the details. But New Zealand has a very kind of interesting process with, you know, any movies that are filmed there. They actually, New Zealand as a country, if you want to film a movie there, you actually are required to have so many people in your movie actually be local residents. Yeah. Actually, like almost every single person in this movie, it's like 3 or 4 people are not actors. So they're just like locals that were there to hang out, and they were like, oh, there's a movie. Yeah, that's pretty much how it is. But they New Zealand actually requires a certain percentage of, you know, so many extras and everything in the movie, and a lot of the production to be done by local companies and everything, which is pretty interesting. You know, it also needs to be, I don't want to say approved, but it has to be like monitored to a certain degree. So maybe monitored where they're like pretty much don't shit on New Zealand.
Yeah. This is I'm imagining it's like I'm imagining it's like the Cannes Film Festival thing when they're trying to get funding or secure funding for a certain movie. You know, like we talk about Cube like that, but like, you know, Cube was underwritten by the Canadian government. A lot of movies can be underwritten by governments, except for like American movies, or can get funding. But yeah, there comes along with a couple touristy. Shoot, where you go? There you go. Sorry, goes along with a couple. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, a couple like audio and video is kind of out of sync. So.
Oh shoot! Is it still out of sync?
Oh yeah, he said he said it was just me. Not you. So
let's see. Well, the thing is, like, it comes along with a couple stipulations, usually in the form of like some touristy stuff, which is you can't make the place look bad, you can't make our people look bad. We can't really go into like a deep delve into whether or not this Aborigines tribe's beliefs are good or not good. They just are what they are, and we're gonna like have to show this place is pretty beautiful. And like, I actually think it works. This movie does not need to be a condemnation like the way that other documentary was of like what it's like to be living in, you know, in sort of the yesteryear when you're living in a 21st century America that has hospitals or that has different ideas about what women can do and not do. I mean, if you go into any religious or like deep enough into any religious sect, like you go into Hasidic Judaism, you go into like intense kinds of Christianity, Muslim, any religion, you go into the deeply religious sects, like the most conservative sects, and you will find that the women are not allowed to do stuff, like most stuff. There are not allowed to be female rabbis in like Hasidic, you know, Judaism culture. Like there aren't a lot of, these are issues that are still being dealt with in like almost every major religion if you go into a deep enough pocket.
But obviously at the same time, there obviously, like any religion, there's, you know, so many degrees of how intense and literal, you know, they can get. But also aside from that, obviously you can believe some sects of, well, when applying to this, I'm sure there's a lot of people in my, you know, that really contribute and participate in Maori culture, especially in like smaller groups, obviously. But obviously, they probably don't believe it to that extent.
Oh, in the way that this movie
like, as Taka does in this movie.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, this is very much a fable. It's also very much about a small insular community that has its own beliefs, but I don't think if this is not a condemnation of religion, it's not a condemnation of this tribe. It's just like almost like in a very fable Moana-esque way. This is a story, like this is an imaginary story about a girl who has these like superpowers that like, and she has to convince the rest of her tribe that she can be, it's a Disney princess sort of narrative, but it's just done in a hyper realistic way that makes you kind of believe that something way worse is going to happen.
This is like a prequel to Aquaman.
I was gonna say it's Aquaman. It's got a little bit like Moses.
Aquaman.
Yeah, it's got a Moana. It's got Mulan. It's really fascinating to me when you said that this was the same director. Do you think he got picked up because of Mulan?
No. She actually. I was gonna mention do a little bit of a mention of her as well. Niki Caro, she's actually, I don't want to say she's like a mega popular director, but at the same time, she has directed quite a few movies that people are very familiar with. For example, most recently, she did Zookeeper's Wife. She did McFarlane USA, North Country with Charlize Theron in 2005. She's done quite a few movies, you know, Heavenly Vintage. She hasn't done a crazy amount of movies, but she also does like quite a bit of writing as well.
Okay.
So, you know, she hasn't done a lot of movies, but what she does participate in, she's clearly does very well.
Was this her first movie? And I just want to say hi PLD real quick. Hi PLD. Hello Sean. Hey to everybody new coming in. That's cool. Bye and bye Manny. Jeremy says, let's see. Jeremy says, I love this female-driven movies you keep picking. I also appreciate that.
I honestly don't feel like I'm picking female-driven movies. I'm just picking movies that I like. I'm not purposely doing that.
I mean, no, I think that's really interesting. But wait,
my heart.
But was this her first movie though? Because for your first movie to win or to be nominated for the Academy Award is it was
okay. So this was actually the first movie she actually first actual movie she did start to finish. Before this, she did a handful of shorts. She did a few episodes of some local TV shows, but this was like the first real movie. Wait, she did do a movie in the late 90s called Memory and Desire, which was a TV movie in New Zealand. But yeah, this was like the first movie she did, and she won so much critical acclaim. This movie was made for like not even $3 million, and it ended up making like over 30 million internationally. It went to a ton of festivals. Like I mentioned, it was submitted for New Zealand to the Oscars. It wasn't nominated for Best Foreign Film, but it was submitted for New Zealand. And also, Keisha Castle-Hughes, the lead actress that played Paikea, she was actually nominated for Best Lead Actress at the ripe old age of 11.
Whoa, 11? Jesus Christ. That's would make her like one of the that would make her.
Yeah, she was at the time one of the youngest actresses to ever been nominated. And then the girl that actually ended up beating her was the little girl. She was like 6 or 8 years old or something like that, from Kwanzaa Wallace. I can't pronounce her first name. From Beasts of Southern Wild.
Oh.
Yeah, she was yeah, but oh, come on, man, my audio's off. Come.
Oh, now it's better. Oh no.
Ah, son of a wing.
Man, did you get a pair of headphones yet? That's a great question also to follow up on. Did you get a pair of headphones yet so you can play tomorrow?
I actually ordered it. It's coming, and so actually I'm so excited. I'm actually gonna get Lucas. He got me a whole computer setup, and so I'm gonna be setting that whole thing up here pretty soon. We're just processing getting the parts.
Okay.
So fingers crossed that's gonna happen here.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but like I mentioned, it was a pretty huge indie movie when it came out, but not a lot of people actually talk about it today, which kind of saddens me. Like, I know I couldn't wait to talk about this with Lucas. But it was released in 2002. From the very few people that have seen it, they talk about how much they love it, but it's not exactly a movie people are eager to spread the love about, essentially. So do you feel like, I know we're going to be talking about this, how it holds up, but do you feel like it's a movie that you need to really talk about in the future? Do you want to spread the love of this movie?
It's not the kind of movie that I would necessarily like. I don't know who I would recommend this to, because again, it's a drama. It's kind of like it's a kind of a heavy film. It has these beautiful images that as a kid, like you want to recommend this to a kid. Oh, a kid rides a whale. It's about female empowerment. Like it's about a young girl. But like it's such a heavy film.
It doesn't seem like it would be going into it, though.
No, it does not seem like it would be.
It seems like it would be a lighthearted movie, but it's very heavy. Yeah,
it's really heavy. And that's not to say that it's not like Slavery or Death. I think it definitely would play well to a critic crowd. Like this is definitely a festival darling kind of movie. This is like the definition of festival darling movie. Like because I think it is. Like this is the kind of movie that plays really well in festivals. But it's kind of hard to recommend on my end because I don't see that many dramas. I don't go see that many dramas, especially ones that deal with subject matter that is like this sort of big and all encompassing. And it's kind of hard to like have a hot take on it other than like that was not fun to watch, but like I get that it's beautiful. And I get that it said something important, but like that wasn't like a fun, thrilling experience to like watch it go through. Ain't Free Willy. That's exactly. That's one of my notes. It just says this ain't Free Willy. I swear to God.
I just realized I didn't do that. Whale writer. There we go. There you go.
Yeah.
I know personally, I can't wait to. I totally get where you're coming from. It is a very heavy movie, but it's a very quick, very short.
Yeah,
heavy
it went
movie.
through very quick.
It clocks it at like not even an hour and 45 minutes, technically.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like maybe 100 minutes or something like that.
God,
so
you know
it's a
why?
really quick watch.
You know what it is too? Like I feel like I'm not giving this movie great justice because I came into it and I was watching it while so sick. So like I feel like this movie took a lot longer for me to watch. It took all day for me to watch because I kept having to rewind. I would fall asleep. Like I was like in and out of like consciousness. And I was trying to like keep my eyes open and pay attention, but I'd be like I was doing one of these things where I was like, and like my head would tilt back, and like it wasn't because the movie was boring. It's just because I was very, very sick. But like, yeah, it felt like this movie didn't drag so much as it was pretty heavy. I would say it's recommendable. I'd say that this is kind of a movie that like, and I don't say this about a lot of movies to bring up, that I'm glad that I watched because this is a great Schmoedown question. This is a great like untapped. I don't know what category it would fall under, but like knowing about this movie makes it more well-rounded.
Festival darlings.
Festival darlings, dramas, coming of age, like
2000s.
Oscars would be a good one, except like it'd be hard to be like, what
2002 film included Keisha Castle-Hughes as an Oscar-nominated actress for being one of the youngest nominated actresses.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great, like, and they would phrase it as being like, what story about a whale obsessed like New Zealand tribe, and I would just blank, but now I know the answer is Whale Rider.
Yeah, it's not a movie we're gonna forget for a while.
Lucas is exactly right. She doesn't ride the whale until she is depressed enough to accept death. That's the movie, folks.
Donations.
Until this 12-year-old is like ready to accept death, and this whale is like, I'm also ready to accept death. Then can this movie really get started? And then by start I mean ends, because we don't get to see her being happy.
Yeah, it's one of those movies. There's a lot of big themes. It's very heavy. And I do want to recommend it. Like I do recommend it to any one of my film buff friends. But would I recommend this to my mom? No. Because my mom is just like, my mom likes watching movies for fun. She doesn't like watching dramas. She only likes like comedies and action movies and stuff. So it's not something I would tell her to watch because she doesn't like crying movies. She doesn't like watching those kind of movies, essentially. Yeah. I do want to ask, this movie was made in 2002, but I know kind of brushed past it a little bit as well, is that even though it's 2002, it is kind of ageless because there's no real sense of technology or anything really in the movie. Do you feel like it is a movie that holds up till today?
Yeah, I think this movie will hold up whenever. Like this movie could have been shot 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and if it could still the exact same message, and like everything else could be the same about it. It's almost weird that this is as modern of a movie as it is, because I feel like this story could have been told in the 90s, and the 80s, and the 70s. Nothing. I think I'm like, what could have been changed about it? Those whales, I'm assuming, weren't CGI. Maybe they were, but like, it also just seems like maybe they just got some whales.
I have no clue. I don't
Those whales looked hella real. Part of me was like, oh, they just got some real whales and trained them.
Yeah, it never actually occurred to me to think about it. Like, if they were real. Because as far as when I was watching the movie, I was like, real whale.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I'm like, were they real?
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing I want to mention. The other thing I want to mention is the other scene that this movie reminded me of, and that scene at the very end with all the whales breached on the beach. And I was like, this is a very weird comparison to draw. It reminds me of The Craft. So in The Craft... when what's her name? What's her name of that actress with the light eyes? When she gets control of Moana, I believe is his name, the god, the angry witch god. What she can do is basically the first sign that why do I want to say his name is also Moana, but it's something weird like that. Mona, something like that, is she gets control of him, and the first thing you see is that all these whales and animals have breached up to the shoreline. And that's how you know, like, the bad chick, Fruza Bulk, is now in control of, like, the witchcraft. And I was like, that's a really interesting visual metaphor to, like, come back to. It's like, oh, yeah, this is how you can tell this young girl is now in control of the whales. I'm like, because one of them is, like, witchcraft, the symbolic paganism, all these ideas. And this is, like, supposed to be a positive thing, but we clearly see it as not a positive thing. Like, it's not great that she managed to get the whales to do that. It's almost like if you had the Captain Planet power of heart, and you just like used it, but like you had that power, but you used it like in a
Manon.
Sorry, Manon. Yes, there we go. Manon.
Is
Manon. Yeah.
Manon?
So it's like, imagine if you had like, okay, Dark Phoenix powers, right? Like if you were like, have that X-Men super ability that just gets away from you sometimes because, you know, female superpowers and being a woman and like the Dark Phoenix thing happens, but your superpowers like Captain Planet's heart thing. So what you did was like superpowers. She just got really upset. Yeah. She got really upset and she made some whales like breach the shore and like want to kill themselves. Like that's what she did. Like I'm not even sure if this girl's totally in control.
No.
What?
No, she did not do that. The people treating her badly. That's the people treating her badly. That's what caused the issue. It wasn't her calling out to them that caused them to try to kill them.
Yeah, she was like, come to shore. She called them, and then they were like, whose fault is it? And she's like, God damn it, it's my fault. You can always blame the teachers and blame the parents, but I'm saying, who has the superpowers and like who did it? No, that isn't to say that that's what the theme of this movie is. I'm saying if this was done in the style of a superhero movie, this would be a whole different narrative about how women can't contain their emotions and they can become too strong and they can like, you know, go all Dark Phoenix or whatever. You know, that's what this narrative would be if it was a different kind of movie.
I don't know. My audio has like been really wonky today. I'm not sure. I mean, again, Aquaman, Moana. I mean, it's a low key like another version of a superhero story. That's why Niki Caro was chosen probably for Moana.
Right, and specifically not just a superhero story, but the story about a young girl who's on the brink of going through hormonal changes and her becoming too powerful or her becoming a threat to whatever. Like that's the story of Carrie. Like I always used to ask, what's the difference between Carrie and like the X-Men? Like the Stephen King story, like Carrie and the X-Men. It's like, well, one of them went to private school. Like one of them got a private school education and one of them had to go to public school. And like that's the only real difference between like telekinesis over here and telekinesis over there. And that's the difference between a horror movie and like you know.
Yeah, if Black Phoenix, sorry, if Dark Phoenix, she ended up going to public school or wherever. It could very well have been a Carrie situation.
So this story, like, this Whale Rider story, again, because I just want to put it into different genres. This story is told hyper realistically, which makes it you kind of resist the idea that there is going to be something supernatural or something mythical happening there. But it does actually make it beautiful and like super emotional when it does happen. They don't really play it up at all, except like in that end. When they do use it at the end, it's not played up for this mystical, like big thing. Like it's played in this like very grounded in reality kind of vibe, and it's really beautiful in that way. I'm trying to think of like something else that's done it that well, that has portrayed the animal relationship with another human and has not played it to like a supernatural bond kind of idea. But like I don't know,
Ash Ketchum and Pikachu.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was a Detective Pikachu who last portrayed the realistic bond that a human and a whale can form. Yeah, no, but the thing is, Jean Grey does totally go carry on everyone. That is fair. I'm just saying that this movie is like another slice of that, where like technically we could be looking at a mutant. Like this Pie Girl could just be like have a really good mutant superpower. We would never know.
Yeah, you never know. She's just not close enough to Xavier to find out. Yeah.
It's
a great Pokemon for Final Take. It's a great Pokemon movie. I love that movie. I'm not gonna lie. That movie's fantastic.
Wait, which one?
Oh, Detective Pikachu.
Yeah, I love Detective Pikachu. I love that movie.
So much fun.
I love that movie. Thought that movie was great. That movie had a lot to say. It was real fun. I also like the idea of like a Pikachu or like a Pokemon extended universe, because I only got into Pokemon via the Pokemon Go game.
Yeah.
Like I don't have any other like ties to Pokemon except the Pokemon Go game. And then I was like, oh, but the extended universe of the Pokemon Go game is like pretty cool. Hey Eric, by the way, hi. What up?
You guys didn't watch the after credits scene where Hugh Jackman shows up?
Yeah, exactly. He's like, hey guys.
What did we miss? It's actually kind of mentioned. I love the idea that we kind of this idea that especially if we're going to be talking about Pokemon and Detective Pikachu in particular, the idea that, well, actually, flashback. My first theater going experience was to Pokemon the first movie.
Pokemon the first
first movie. It came out in like 97 or 96 or something like that. I was obsessed to play the games. I played a game on Game Boy. I had yellow, red, blue, silver, pearl, gold.
I don't know what any of this
I had Game Boy, a Game Boy Color, several versions of it. I was really into Pokemon for a long time. I could do the Poke Rap really fluidly and like not mess up. I was that kid.
Wait, we got a great question from Shinappy. Shinappy's asking, what is the more sad Pokemon movie, Whale Rider or Pokemon first movie?
Pokemon the first movie.
Oh, wow.
Well, I cry like I was like and he after Ash turns into stone and Pikachu is just like shocking him, and I'm like
Wait, you said that movie came out in theaters? Do the rap. Sean's saying do the rap.
No, I can't do it anymore. I used to have a really bad lisp. I had to go to I had to go through speech therapy.
Elocution lessons. You took elocution. You took elocution lessons. And they call it that, elocution, not electrocuting, but
was. I did that like all throughout grade school and a few years into middle school. It was rough, and but I used to. I had to do a lot of tongue twisters, and I had to do a lot of that. But for fun, I would do the Poke Rap, and that to help me kind of do that. And it's like a full-on thing for like 150 Pokemon, and I used to ace it perfect. And I can't anymore.
Hold on one second. Link.
Yeah. But yes.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I
don't remember what that
that doesn't remind me. Go ahead.
I did want to mention, it was actually around this time, starting in the late 90s, early 2000s, that New Zealand really started coming on the map as far as international films go. Mm-hmm. So this movie was like one of the first movies at the time that kind of put New Zealand on the map in terms of like the indie films and everything. Prior to that, some movies we filmed there, but there's not really many Hollywood movies that are like based in New Zealand, even now. But it was actually starting around this time where I guess people started getting a lot more interested in New Zealand, the visuals and everything, where a lot more movies were not only filmed there, or actually were starting to become like actually not just filmed there, but actually took place there. Mm-hmm. Like where they said, we're in Auckland, we're in
Auckland.
The family lives here, stuff like that. So, but also like a lot of famous shows. Top of the Lake. It was on HBO.
Top of the Lake was great. That's
Top of the Lake. Yeah. What is it called? That show? It was a show for a long time.
There's one called Glitch. That's a New Zealand show. That's on Netflix. It's really good. It's a supernatural show. I believe that's an Auckland show. HBO show.
It was there for a long time.
Are you talking about like Flight of the Conchords?
Thank you, Flight of the Conchords. Yes, Flight of the Conchords.
Didn't take place there, but yeah, Brett and McKenzie or whatever.
Yeah, they came out a handful of years later, and that, who knows, might have not happened if it wasn't for the possible earlier success of this movie.
Yeah. So, Flight of the Conchords I remember Flight of the Conchords being a thing. Just because of their own hilarity. And then again, like, and it's also just like, I think it has a lot to do with the tax credits, right? Like how much tax credit is New Zealand willing to put forth for filming up there? Because I'm sure a lot of people would love to film at the place of Lord of the Rings films, but how accessible are they making it for people to film there who aren't from there? And especially if they have things like you have to use this many people from our land and it has to focus. Yeah. We don't know what exactly. It would be interesting to look up. This is the kind of stuff I used to go down real rabbit holes about, like what the exact stipulations are for getting a tax credit or for being allowed to film in New Zealand. It might be that you have to shoot it like basically a promo, like a tourist guide. Like it needs to look like everything needs to be positive. Like New Zealand needs to be a character. It needs to be a positive character. Everything needs to be portrayed as pro New Zealand. Like you don't know what kind of stipulations they're putting on the films. I mean, I thought it was interesting because I was wondering if Jojo Rabbit was considered a foreign language entry, not foreign language because we've changed it from foreign language to be international. So I was like, is Jojo Rabbit an international movie? I think Eric's point was, well, they didn't shoot it in New Zealand, so like no, like
Well,
that was.
there. I mean, like very few movies. I mean, not that many movies are actually filmed in the U.S. I mean, a lot of movies. I mean, Hollywood movies are actually filmed like in Canada because of tax credits.
Sure,
You know,
but that's actually changed a lot.
to,
I mean, but that's
to
a whole other
look
thing.
like, because it's so close to looking like the U.S. A lot of their cities, they just have to.
Yeah, but the U.S. is really. I mean, like it used to be only California, and then like there are a couple states. But I did
Georgia.
I did a big story about this in New York about like 7 or 8 years ago when Bloomberg was mayor. They changed the tax credit situation entirely in New York. So we had things like Giuliani's biography is being shot up in Toronto because like no one could afford like New York State.
Mm-hmm.
Then they changed everything, made New York State super, super friendly to filming. They made all these tax initiatives, all these like cuts. They brought in $7 billion to New York in the course of like 3 years. But like in this, so there's all these studios there now. There's so much filming there now. Different states, like, you know, we see a lot of filming there. I think it's more the question of who's if a government is underwriting it, like which government is underwriting it. Like it's not about necessarily about where it's filmed. It's like who's producing it. Like if the city, if the country of New Zealand has helped underwrite this film, then that they might have some stipulations as opposed to just like a show that's like filming a couple pickup shots there.
Yeah, not kidding. It's I mean, just like
I don't know, Robert. I think it might be considered foreign language film, or not foreign film. I would consider. I don't know. Maybe yeah, because Peter Jackson is from New Zealand. It was shot all in New Zealand.
Yeah, he's from New Zealand.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Meet the Feebles, the Heavenly Creatures. Yeah.
Oh no, I knew he loved New Zealand. I really love Heavenly Creatures. That movie is like really fun.
But I was gonna put that on our list, but then I realized that like you've seen it already, and I was like, damn it, that's one of the ones on my list.
Oh no, I feel like you and I, because we don't really go over it too much.
Did I find one? Did I find one this week that you haven't seen, or next week? Sorry.
Well, it's like you actually brought up to me earlier today about the movie that I haven't seen. Oh, and I do want to correct you specifically. Peter Jackson was born in 1961 in Wellington, was raised in a nearby coastal town in Pakura Bay. His parents.
Where's Wellington?
I'm sorry.
Where's Wellington?
Though that is in New Zealand. However, they were immigrants from They were immigrants from England.
Sorry, but he grew up in New Zealand.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's I just wanted to make clear on. Okay, yeah, but he moved from England, but he grew up in New Zealand. Okay, I understand that. I understand that there's some confusion in that. But like he is a New Zealand director who's always shot his early works in New Zealand. Like Heavenly Creatures is about a very famous, very tragic, but very like delicious case about these two young women who fall in love with each other, Kate Winslet and Melanie Linsky. Yeah, in 50s, and they decide that they've fallen in love with each other. They enter this like magical world together, and then they decide the only way they can stay together is by killing one of their mothers with like a brick hidden inside a purse. And that story is so freaking fascinating because it's both true. Those girls both went away to mental institutions afterwards. And then one of them became like a really, really, really famous romance writer, like under a different pseudonym.
Just to clarify, when they went into this like magical world, one of them apparently had schizophrenia, and one of them had schizophrenia. The other one had a lot of issues, but there was apparently they had a lot of issues with abuse and everything growing up. Unfortunately, with their families. Like physical and sexual abuse, and that kind of really forced that, and they ended up bonding very intensely together in a very short amount of time. But regardless, yeah, I would love to dive into that movie a lot more because it's weird and a weird, fun time. I would love to. But
okay, hold on. I'm being told to check Facebook Messenger, so vamp for a second while I check what people are talking about. Let's see. Is this something Lucas has sent me?
No, it's from Robert.
Oh, it's from Robert. Okay, hold on. Look, here's the overlay. See, what's he saying? From Robert, it says, here's the overlay. Oh, he got us a new overlay. Cool. I love it. Robert, we haven't even told you what our next movie is, though, and I think you're going to have fun with this one. Yes. So our new one is going to be one that I feel like I'm going to get in blue velvet like trouble with myself for picking this, except that I'm going in knowing exactly what I'm doing. Like I know why I'm picking this movie and why it's important to watch, even if it's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way. So hold on, let me just upload this new overlay because it's so cool. Let's see. There we go. So minus 3.0. Let's dig this up.
Now, this is just to clarify, the object of cinema bias overall is that cinema bias is our show where we introduce movies to each other that the other has not seen, movies that are like close to our hearts, and that we're kind of able to kind of educate each other on.
Yeah.
So I
try to find each other's biases. And also I'm realizing as much biases that we have as people who recommend films to one another, like what are the kind of things that we like to recommend? What kind of movies are we like proud of liking, as opposed to like what movies are guilty pleasures to us? And it's been an interesting, like it's actually like it's brought a lot up actually, and it's made me watch a lot of movies that I would never have watched otherwise, but it's also made me re-examine a lot of movies that like I'm like, wait, why would I recommend this? So I'm being a lot more careful, or I'm thinking a lot more about my picks, and this one's going to be an interesting one.
Were you not before?
I was, but I was thinking about like ways to make you uncomfortable. I think I was mainly going after like what movies would like Alex hate to watch and I can like force her to watch, and then you could do vice versa. You know, that was kind of like the idea of Videodrew is something I didn't feel like you'd really like to watch. Blue Velvet, I knew that you hadn't seen any Lynch. This movie is a little bit different, that I had to spend some time with it. I also believe that you're going to have like a very visceral reaction to this movie. It is Neil LaBute's infamous. Neil LaBute's
that we talked about earlier?
What?
Is that the movie we talked about earlier?
Yes. It's In the Company of Men.
Oh. Yeah.
It's Neil LaBute's In the Company of Men. It was originally a play. If you guys know the history of Neil LaBute, if you don't, we can get into it next week. But Neil LaBute's a very controversial theater writer and film writer who's done plays such like Fat Pig, and he often gets into it with he's got a streak of he likes to write about people who are severe misogynists and people who have like extreme issues with women. He also went to a Mormon school. This movie stars, it's basically a two-hander. It started out as a play that was done at Brigham Young until they shut it down like the night before it was actually supposed to premiere. So he's creative collaborative partners with Aaron Eckhart. So they went to college together. So this movie stars Aaron Eckhart. It's like a mid-90s movie. It's done very much like a play. Like you'll see, like when you watch it, it's very much going to be like, oh, this could have been a play, because it was. It's about these two guys who have been both broken up with and are angry with women, and they move to a new town and they decide to make a bet, and that's all I'll say about it. And this is a movie that has a lot of criticism about what kind of movie it is and what it's trying to say, and how much it revels in being like, you know, how much statement it's making versus how much it's reveling in its toxicity. But I think it's got some really interesting statements to make, and I'm 100%. I've examined my feelings about it, have like looked it over every single which way, and I'm very excited to explore it with you.
I'm pretty psyched. I like being made uncomfortable because I hate being made uncomfortable, but at the same time, you know, it's a movie I am not familiar with in the slightest. I haven't heard of. Aaron Eckhart, I do like him. He does very well. And if it's anything along the lines of, you know, Thank You for Smoking, it's a movie I thoroughly enjoy.
So it is. It's kind of like Thank You for Smoking. It's sort of like, I think they got the idea to hire him after watching him in this.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh no, let's see if it actually is streaming anywhere though. That might be an issue.
Come on, man. Okay.
We'll figure it out.
Okay, because I feel bad because I don't want to have another like piano situation, because I really wanted to talk about the piano, yet I can't find it anywhere.
Okay, so this movie you can get on Apple TV. Is that what that means? So let's see if you can get. I think let's see, or like iTunes or something. Yeah, get it on iTunes, basically.
Son of a bitch.
Can you not do iTunes? We're gonna have to start
I don't use iTunes. I can figure it. I mean, it's all good.
We'll figure it out, and we're gonna figure out a way to do the piano. We're gonna figure out a way to do the piano too. I promise. But if not, then I have a good backup one that we're gonna be doing, probably like Todd Swan's movie, like Happiness.
I do have iTunes, Jeremy. I do want to confirm I do have iTunes. I just don't use it. I have no need to use it.
Well, there you go. We might have found something. So guys, yeah, so I'm really excited to put that up. Do we have anything to close out? Do you want to say where we can find you at? Oh wait, we do have one. Wait, I forgot about one thing. We did have one question from the chat, from the Discord chat, which is Gabby. Alex, did you watch this movie at a younger age and find inspiration in Pai's character, or come across later in life and perhaps related to it some way for your own coming of age?
I did. When I watched this for the first time, I was by maybe 13 or 14 years old. So I was kind of around that age, because I do think that Paikea's character is around 10 or 11 years old. I didn't really so much find it inspirational. I just remember it was like one of the first movies that because it was like that, the kind of transition time where I started watching movies and I was like, oh, this is not all movies are gonna be like Pokemon the first movie. this movie feels like it's made for someone else, and I'm like, and I just happened to watch it. Like, there's a lot of darker themes, and I was like, this movie means something. So it was like one of the first movies. I think this and like Aliens, where I was like, this movie means something more than what it led on, I guess. So it's a very symbolic movie and a lot of themes and everything, which I appreciated, that I recognized for the first time. So it's not so much like a movie that's like close to my heart or anything, but it's a movie that I really just genuinely love and adore.
I love it. I love it, guys. And is there anywhere else where you can find you, Alex? I know we did this. Guys, yeah, we will be back on Tuesday, our regular time next week. This has just been a little bit of a hiccup because we're all sort of like doing stuff, and because I got really, really sick. That's mainly why. So we will be back in our same bat time, same bat place as Tuesdays, 8 p.m. PT, which is, I forget what that translates to, Central Time, and I'm not going to pretend like I can figure it out right now. But where can we find you, Alex?
You can find me over at Call to Action. I'm sure anyone that's watching this, that's how they know me almost exclusively. But yeah, you can find me over there every single week on Wednesdays. I do host a little Schmoedown themed debate show called Schmoebates. Drew over here is a frequent co-host of mine, and so it's a fun time. But yeah, so I am going to be making a pretty huge announcement coming up in like a week or two. Just saying. So it's going to be a real fun time. I cannot wait. We have a ladies' night here coming up later this week, so that's going to be a fun time.
Okay, dope. And you're on Twitter. We can find you.
Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at Real Alex Mac, right up there. I just have a Twitter. I like to post funny GIFs and weird little quotes and something here and there. So we'll see how that happens.
Okay, well, me, you can find me. I'm at VideoDrew across all social platforms, which includes Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, Patreon, Streamlabs, all these things, as well as this channel that you're currently on. And please subscribe to this channel if you already haven't, because really trying to get up to that thousands. I'm really close to getting monetized, guys. Super, super close. I'm blowing it. But tomorrow night, I'm hosting another video karaoke over on my Twitch stream. So that would be twitch.tv/VideoDrew, starting around 8 p.m. I'm going to be doing it's really fun. As long as you have a pair of headphones and you have the ability to download Twitch Sings, you can come join in and sing along with us. Otherwise, you can always just come on board and hang out and be in the comment section. It's going to be really, really fun. I also do VideoChronic pop culture quizzes, which let me be clear, that's Eric's thing. That's Eric's thing that I managed to get on board with and like jump on and like force him to bring out into public. But I was watching the Jeff Snyder thing earlier today from the
AAA.
The AAA, and he was like, yeah, I like VideoDrew's quizzes, and I was like, no, not my quizzes. They're Eric's quizzes. But they're really fun. We do them twice a week. We do them over in this channel. They're VideoChronic pop culture quizzes. We still have our Matrix Reloaded coming up sometime soon. On Monday, we have William Bibiani and Whitney doing a Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Can I come on that episode? Can I please?
Yeah, I think that's just between the two of them, but you can definitely show up and be a little hamburglar. So that's going to be Monday night at 9 p.m. Pacific. That's gonna be super fun. I also do this show. I'm starting to work on some more VideoDrew themed content. It's kind of been slow going this week because again, I've been super barfy, but hopefully going to get better soon and working some more stuff out. And let's try and think what else we got going on. I think that's it for me right now, which seems like a surprisingly less amount of things than normal. But hey,
Honestly, yeah.
Oh.
Absolutely. All right. But thank you so much, guys, for coming and hanging out with us. We'll see you next Tuesday. We are going to be continuing on Tuesday, so heads up. So, and definitely go watch that movie if you can sometime this week, so you can kind of follow along with what we're kind of chatting about. Thanks so much, and we'll see you.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Oh my God, bye.